Hello again, folks. Now, as some of you know, a few years ago I was unceremoniously kicked off Twitter, and my crime at the time was that I had dared to speak up for victims of child abuse when I found out that there were sick paedophiles on Twitter using it to justify their disgusting, sick beliefs. And that was that. I was silenced, I was censored, and I never got my account back. But when back I did because I made a secret account, and I'm using that account to this day in order to get stuff for my YouTube videos. And yes, I do miss my original account because I had a great time. I had nearly 7,000 followers and I'd nearly finished following them all back. And I was winding up the Luftwaffe a treat, as well as putting the Twittler youth in their place. It was all good. Until the day I saw the hashtag LGBT, I think it was P or Q or something like that, or one of the letters denotes these sick individuals who advocate for sex with minors, which is of course wholly wrong on all levels. Well, to us decent-minded people anyway. Because it seems that the lefties who run Twitter, and especially Jack Dorsey, the soaking wet, hairy twat that he is, has got no problem with paedophiles on their platform. It literally turned my stomach. So anyway, these days on Twitter there's a lot of trans activism, and I came across this account. Now this person is called Jessica Phoenix Sylvia, and Jessica Phoenix Sylvia identifies as a trans woman of colour. Now looking into Jessica Phoenix Sylvia, I can tell you that official records list Jessica's ethnicity as white. But hey, welcome to 2021. Anyone can identify as anything they want. Now, I haven't got a problem with that. I really don't. You can identify as a bar of Snickers and parade up and down Aylesbury High Street. And as long as you leave people alone, you're not into any criminal activities, you pay your dues, and you're either friendly or keep to yourself, then there's no problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is people like Jessica Phoenix Sylvia. Because looking even deeper into Jessica's history and who this person really is, it literally turned my stomach. Because I read Jessica's bio on Twitter, and I did get a bit miffed because I thought, what the hell is someone in prison doing with a Twitter account, and I'm not? But Jessica's crimes are stomach churning. Because Jessica is in jail because Jessica had possession of depictions of minor engaged in sexually explicit conduct. Jessica also failed to register as a sex offender. And Jessica attempted to murder in the first degree. And Jessica also interfered with the reporting of domestic violence. And that made me even more pissed off because not only is Jessica in prison, but Jessica is also a paedophile. And Twitter is more comfortable with an incarcerated paedophile having their say and having free speech rather than someone like me and conservatives like me. And now I'm even more convinced that Twitter needs to die. I just hope and pray for the day that someone with any sense of decency working in Twitter will pull the plug. Twitter is an awful place. It's a biased echo chamber where Antifa members and Black Lives Matter can incite violence and murder and plan their riots. And a left-wing verified Twitter twat blue tick can quite literally say whatever the hell they want without any repercussions from Twitter. It makes you sick, doesn't it? Doesn't it make you sick? It makes my stomach churn. And so Jessica is a trans woman of colour who is very much an activist for trans rights and trying desperately to transfer to a female prison. Now this is what Jessica tweeted. Last month, I wrote about what it feels like to be legally named Jessica Phoenix Sylvia, yet dead named every time someone has to search for me in a database or write to me. Jessica doesn't fully exist as long as I'm incarcerated. So reading from that, Jessica isn't this person's legal name, well not yet, and Jessica wants to get out of prison. Well, who doesn't? But looking into the United States legal system and reading about Jessica's disgusting crimes, then I suggest that Jessica has an ulterior motive for changing their name and their gender, because under US law, it does make it harder to find out a person's criminal past when they adopt a new identity. Now, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Exactly. Yes, just that. And of course, because Jessica is transgender and identifies as a woman of colour, and transgenderism is an issue that's been championed and shared and taken up by the lefties on social media, it is no surprise to find out that most of the 239 followers Jessica has on Twitter are left-wing journalists who are employed by left-wing media organisations. So there we go, folks. If you're a conservative, if you're a patriot, if you're a Trump fan, if you're anything right-wing and you've had your account censored on Twitter, simply for speaking your mind and daring to have a different opinion to the screeching lefties on Twitter that inhabit that left-wing, bigoted hellhole that it is, then you will be as miffed as I am as to why your freedom of speech has been taken away, yet a convicted paedophile can still have their account on there. Isn't it just mad? And in closing, I think instead of campaigning for trans rights, then maybe Jessica should focus on justice for Jessica's victims, make reparations for the damage Jessica has caused, and stop attempting to get into women's prisons. There are an alarming number of cases of men who are sex offenders who want to get out of the harsh environment of men's prisons, and then they simply identify as female in order to get transferred to a relatively cushier female prison. Now, can you just imagine being a female who's incarcerated in a women's prison? You've had a bit of a shitty life, you've been a victim of sex abuse, which has led you to a life of crime, which happens, sadly, and it's a vicious circle and you're desperately trying to get out of it. And the next thing you know, you're sharing your cell with a person who's quite clearly a man who was transferred from a male prison, but you don't know that he was jailed for sex crimes against women. And the next thing you know, one night, you become his latest victim. Now, like I said before, I'm all for trans rights, but when trans rights become detrimental against women and their rights, then I'm not all for it. Women's prisons should be for biological women only, and the same for women's sports. What chance does a female athlete have against a hulking, huge man who is bigger, stronger, faster than they are? And I think women have had a shitty time through history anyway, so what the hell are authorities and left-wing activist groups thinking by lumping them with this latest piss take? It really is. And sadly, the case of Jessica Phoenix Sylvia is far from the first example of a dangerous person being shielded by gender identity ideology and endorsed by activists and media, some of which who are following Jessica on Jessica's Twitter account. And folks, having just talked about it for 10 minutes, I've just come to the realization that there are far more important issues that I should be speaking about, like biological women's rights, rather than me not allowed to have my say on a screwed up social media platform like Twitter that doesn't want me there in the first place. Anyway, that's my video. Please let me know what you think in the comments. And if you wish to support my channel, then you can buy me a beer. Because YouTube and Google have demonetized my channel because they don't like what I say. Yet the thieving wankers still put adverts all over my videos, so they're profiting from my hard work. And I think it's wrong, so that's why I set up the buy me a beer thing. Because through that, what you donate goes straight to my PayPal and they don't get a penny. It's not mandatory, but it's up to you. And to everyone who's bought me a beer so far, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Right, that's it. That's my video. Please comment, share, subscribe. And until my next one, Roger Trout.